Morning, everyone, to another episode of the LANCESCURV show. I'm just checking something on this side with my sound, and I just want to make sure that everything is coming through. I see that everything looks just about right, but I just want to make sure that this is coming through correctly. If anyone could just give me a heads up to let me know if the sound is coming through correctly. There was one aspect of logging in that I didn't do until the last minute, and it kind of slipped me, but other than that, everything is just fine. Just let me know if everything is coming through. Good sound, good sound. Thank you, Sister Gifty. Thank you so much. I want to stress before I start using my notes as a guide for this topic tonight, that this is not a situation where, how can I say it now? This is not a situation where it's an extreme bit of abuse from the mother to the daughter. And these particular type of cases that I wanted to explain, it's almost like having a pebble in your shoe your whole life because of the mother's clinginess to the daughter, because she has been through so much. And the clinginess is because she does love the daughter, but she could be overbearing. And because of how the generations pass by and go by, and I'm going to step up for a second. I have to put something in the fridge. And I'm going to take you with me because I'm not going to get up and pause anymore. But the mother, and we're talking about Black people now, these situations can happen in a similar fashion with other races, but there's certain unique proximities between the mother and the daughter that are just really unique for Black people. Now, let me explain this now, right? Why I moved this stuff around in my fridge, which is really unprofessional, but this is a close-knit family here, so I don't have to front like I'm in some multi-million-dollar studio. But look at this now. I'm 61 years old. My father's from Jamaica. My mother is born in America. But my mother was born in 1930. So could you imagine her father, what he grew up in? Let's say he was, let's just pick numbers because I don't know. Let's say he was 30 when he had her. So her grandfather, his father, when was he born? Either he was born into slavery or his grandfather had to be. So unlike those who were born into slavery 300 years ago, 400 years ago, this was all they knew. Their prior generation was born into slavery, and they know that the subsequent generations are going to be born into slavery. So this has a lot to do with it, because those in my generation, which there are other generations that are coming behind me, usually the grandfathers or great-grandfathers and grandmothers, because we're speaking about mothers, were born into slavery. And every subsequent generation after that had a bit more freedom. Just a bit. So me, myself, being born in 1963 and some of before and some after, because we know that we just don't procreate at 18 years old. Some of us get it in at 45 years old. So there's a little fluctuation with the time. That being said, and let me just plug this in. That being said, we're in new territory here. Our mothers, and I say I'm a son, so I can't really speak the whole 99% of what it's like to be a daughter. But I have spoken to enough who have dealt with this low level, almost undetectable, I don't even want to call it abuse, but dealings, proximity, I can't say overbearing situation with these mothers who we can say they're manipulating, but in their mind, they're trying to bring their daughters up in a way that would be safe for them, but it's not that world anymore. And they get glimpses of the fact that it's not that world anymore, and you can't tell them the green-eyed monster, the elephant in the living room, is not going to pop up again as it did in the mother's days when she was influenced by slavery, even if she was not born in slavery. The stigma is there because the memories on a DNA level and the pain and frustration and hopelessness is passed down. This is why many of us who are of younger ages can channel that. Not that it's something that they want to channel, but it's there. And you wonder sometimes, where are these feelings coming from? Like we have, and go through it. Now, did I fall off? I hope not. It seems like, well, no, I have one monitor saying I fell off and another one saying I didn't. I hope this wasn't interrupted. And if it was, please let me know. But in today's news, you know what's the hot topic? The election coming up. And because of the election, many people are seeing Black people a certain way where certain things are so obvious, but they still run behind the usual narrative. And that narrative is being loyal to whoever they say is on that side of the political horizon. Is this trauma felt because we couldn't step out of what we were in before, but we are free to choose what we want to choose, but we still stay loyal to the pain? We still love our chains. So really and truly, when you have a mother that has been through so much, sometimes she doesn't realize that instead of trying to make a duplicate self in that daughter, she should just be a steward of that daughter to make sure she has the education, has the knowledge of what she's been through earlier on. Yes, give her the knowledge of your experiences, but it's a different world now. And sometimes it's hard for mothers to pull back and allow their daughters to be who they're supposed to be in the present day world. It's almost like people who have gone through the Depression. And that was a hard, hard time. Hours in the soup line, no food, no work. This is a traumatic situation. And so now when many of these people got older, and because of the time of frugality and lack, they were trained to not waste. So the younger kids come along and they know of a more freer, more prosperous time, and they may not have the limiters that their parents had or grandparents. And they feel that, well, listen, you're being cheap. But the memory of the Depression and the fear of it coming back and returning looms threatening in a threatening manner over their heads and subconscious minds. So I just wanted to say that it doesn't mean that these manipulating mothers are straight evil, because many of them have done the right thing with their daughter, but it's like leaving food in a microwave a little bit too long. It's time to be taken out from that microwave. It's time to be taken off of the stove. It's time for the daughter to spread her wings and not allow your idiosyncrasies as a mother to make it toxic for that daughter to navigate, especially when she's a dutiful daughter. You see, this is the next part of the puzzle. The dutiful daughter loves her mother. The dutiful tongue twister, the dutiful daughter will always do for the mother every single thing she loves, but the goalposts, the emotional goalposts get moved here and there, because if you don't act right, or if the daughter stands up to the mother in a sense, not standing up to fight, but she exhibits now the traits of a grown woman because she is a grown woman. But that mother may also always see her is that vulnerable daughter that needed her, not just stewardship, but you need to be a mini me. Because that's how I got to this world, and I don't see those qualities in you. And so I'm going to manipulate you. I'm going to push you. I'm not going to let you have the room to grow and be your own person. Tracy J, welcome on in. Yes. And we got Gifty here. Landon was here earlier. I don't know if he's here now, but he will hear these words. Welcome on in when you do come in, brother. But it's a hard thing because oftentimes, and I would say the majority of times, these mothers, they bring out the greatness in their daughters in one sense, because those daughters are so used to being pushed, guided with a little struggle, that the outside world can be tough, but they succeed. But they still have the feeling on the inside that when they deal with the mother, listen, mommy, mom, whatever you want to call them, listen, I'm a grown woman. I'm of age. I'm not in my 20s. I'm not in my 30s, but then some could be in their 40s, 50s, and 60s. Some a little younger, like we said. We don't know when people procreate in their life. But the effect is still the same. And it's a struggle every time. When that daughter who is looked at as a powerhouse, who's respected for her accomplishments, who's respected for her high moral compass, the mother doesn't always acknowledge that. The mother still sees that daughter as a vulnerable human being. And oftentimes, just like the little girl that she was. And I have to say, whether it's a boy or a girl, but we're talking about the young ladies now, we never lose that branch on our tree. Yes, Gifty, the mother-daughter dynamic can be tough, uniquely tough. But when you go as a child and climb the tree that has 3 small branches on it, that tree looks big to you. But if you leave and move on from your hometown to live in another area for many years, and you have the feeling to say, let me come back, let me visit the old neighborhood. And sometimes it could be heartbreaking because the favorite store that you used to get your candy from could now be some type of business that has nothing to do with your memory. You go to some of the old houses where you know that some people are still alive that are older than you, and you know that probably those kids moved away, and somebody else opens the door only to tell you that 5 years ago, that mother or that father or that family, they passed away. Well, now you go to the old house that you lived in and you see this tree that's so huge. And you say to yourself, what happened to the tree that I used to climb? It's not there anymore. Oh, but yes, it is. You're looking at it. That tree went on to grow. It had 3 branches on it. And now it has 25. And it used to be 1.5 stories high, but now it's probably 4 stories high. And you look at the tree and try to figure out the branches that you used to climb, and they're so much higher and bigger, but it's the same tree. So the young lady who was treated this way by the manipulated mother or manipulating mother has to understand that while you see the new branches on your personal tree, oftentimes that mother only sees the original 3. And she knows what you've accomplished. And I wouldn't say it's a jealousy at all. But she feels, this is the mother now, slightly disappointed that you did not carry on the attitudes. And I don't mean attitude as far as a bad attitude. I mean attitudes toward life, because she grew up in a different world. She grew up in a different world that's not there anymore. And yes, we have just as much hate, if not more, in the world, but it's played out in a different way. So here she is as a mother, and there's got to be a frustration because she feels that she has the toolbox to correct and help all that you are at this particular time. But the tools that she has, I won't say are outdated, but they're a bit more crude. And maybe can't reach the parts of you to convey to you in a heartwarming way how she really feels. So she's frustrated. Now the tree that had the 3 branches is something that she can't recognize. And now when she has her idiosyncrasies show out, she begins to manipulate. She walks into a room at the daughter's place, and her eyesight is a little strained. She walked into the dark room and forgot that that wasn't the bathroom. She was spending the night and woke up in the middle of the night. We all do that at any age when you don't wake up all the way. So she walked into this room that had a vase on the table. She bumped into the table, and the vase rolled over and hit the ground and broke into a few pieces. It didn't break into a million pieces, but this is what woke the mother up. So the mother puts the light on. She sees what happened, and she says to herself, oh, God. So she goes to the restroom and comes back, and those 4 or 5 pieces of the vase, she can lean up as though it was never broken, although it's quite evident the cracks in the vase are there. So she goes on and closes the door and goes on back to sleep. Now the daughter comes to her. This is just one example. The daughter comes to her in the morning time, not in an angry way, but she goes on to inquire, Mom, I had a vase on the table and it seems to be broken. And nobody else has been here at this apartment or this home for the last 2 weeks, and they really haven't been in that room. It's not a big thing, but can I ask you, did you have anything to do with it breaking? Because I see it put back together like someone broke it and put it back together. And mind you, it is no big thing. And that manipulating mother who has a problem seeing the little girl that she had as a grown woman who may inquire to her, and maybe it's a challenge of her authority. And she can't handle it. She might first say, no, I don't know anything about it. Then after a bit of time and gentle coercion to get the truth, she says, oh, it might have been me. I woke up in the middle of the night, but I don't remember. See, they're never going to give you the whole answer or the whole apology. And this is what makes the dutiful daughter so frustrated. So as she's about to come around with the logic, because she's frustrated because this has been done to her all her life. She's a dutiful daughter, and she knows the love that she has in her heart. But that mother always manipulated herself out of being accountable or allowing her to be who she's supposed to be. And she realizes this now, the dutiful daughter that is now grown and accomplished. Again, we have to give credit where credit is due. But you don't keep the meal that's supposed to bake in the oven for an hour for 2 hours. You'll burn it. doesn't mean that that's the fault of the meal in the oven. So now the daughter has different things that she has to work through as she unwinds from the mother she loves, but it's almost like the moth to the flame. You can't fly too close or you'll get burned. But you love the flame and you know the flame loves you, but as soon as you get close, the flame flickers your way and almost burns one of your wings emotionally. So what are you going to do? Because it seems as though she's determined, the mother we're speaking of, that she's not going to change. And it's so frustrated where you, as the dutiful daughter, when you are out in the world in your area of expertise, you run things. You get respect. People respect you for your talents and your ability, and not even just judgment, but your assessment. People come to you for advice. Your every syllable is golden to the people who seek advice. And you know what this is like. And you're not ego tripping on yourself because you're quite humble, but you know your capabilities. But every time you get around your manipulating mother, she has to find a way to strip you of all you've attained. And you're thinking to yourself, why isn't she really seeing me as I am? I'm still her daughter. If need be, I can be that little girl, but I'm not that little girl anymore. I can show that side. Why can't she open up and connect with me this way? Does she feel threatened by me? Does she feel intimidated by me? Because I'm not trying to do this, but you realize that she has her own upbringing and died in the wool way of seeing life because of all that she's been through. And in her mind, she's being protective. But after she's on the verge of being cornered to confess about this vase, she will always come with an emergency. Oh, I'm feeling chest pains. Oh, I don't know if this is the time I'm going to leave this earth. Oh, and she does it on cue every time. And tears come. Why are you talking about this minor thing when I'm telling you that I'm getting chest pains? I'm having pains in my head and on the left side. I hope this is not a stroke. That's her way of getting away from the accountability because she's used to being in charge over that little girl and can't really see that that grown woman who was brilliant to the world, revered, honored, because it's the same mother that drove her to being successful, not to take away from the daughter, but it's those attributes of following through, crossing every T and dotting every I, is what made that daughter great. She took the ball and ran with it. She took the baton and ran with it and finished off the race. But the mother can't see that it's a different world now than the world that she grew up in. Which, if that mother had a father or grandfather that was raised in slavery, this is why I say there's some unique aspects in the Black community with this, although there can be similar aspects, nothing cut like slavery. And many people will say, oh yeah, bringing up slavery again, it's the past, it's the past. Well, listen, if somebody walked up to you this morning, I'm talking to the people who are going to say that, and shot you in the leg, and you didn't get to the hospital till late afternoon or early evening, because you lived in some remote area and it took a while for the helicopter to bring you in, is the doctor going to say, well, that was this morning, this was the past? The pain is still there. The pain lingers on. And like I said earlier, it's in our DNA when we have this thing in our bloodline. I can prove that. How we feel for each other. And even past the point of transition, there's something that we carry with us, something with that ancestral energy that's still in the air of all the things that have been done to us that have never been resolved. Now, you're watching TV with your family, and you have a son or a daughter who went to the kitchen to get some popcorn for you, or went to the kitchen to get that plate and put it in the microwave, heat it up, and bring it to you. And so your child comes out walking towards you with the plate, and bangs its shin or kneecap on the coffee table and puts the plate down, he or she doesn't drop it, but they're holding it like, oh, this hurts so bad. Do you sit there like Mr. Spock looking at her with no expression, or him? You grab your leg too, oh baby, please. Oh, I hope, come over here, let me rub it. Sympathetic. This is not just for those of us who are living. It passes on through the DNA. Why do you think you have mothers who have a child in their stomach and they talk to the child, they read to the child, they sing to the child? And is it any surprise when the child comes out with a more advanced mind, a more intuitive mind, to be able to connect with human beings because of the things that they heard while they were in the womb? It's not just a matter of the nourishment that the mother eats. It's not just a matter of checking herself each trimester that the baby is coming along at a good size. There's a spiritual connection. And so with the dutiful daughter, she is most likely here to soothe the mother because she knows intimately the mother's pain and the mother's thoughts that were transferred into her during that pregnancy of a time when that baby wasn't even around. You were divinely briefed on the world that's there and was there, but once that child comes out, you see that your mother's thoughts were strong and you understand her, but it's a different world right now. Yes, Gifty, strong Black women. You know, they always try to say, oh, it's something, some kind of daddy issue. But like she says, and I'll put this on the screen who want to see this later on, strong Black women often have troubled relationships with their mothers. And remember what I said in the beginning of this program, that it doesn't mean that that mother had multiple boyfriends coming over the house if she was single, going into the room, and she's in there in the room counting up money or just dealing with 3 or 4 different men that when she ran off to the store violated the daughter. No, this is not that type of show tonight. We've done shows on that level of abuse and we'll do them again. This is a different type of abuse, and even abuse could be in many of these slow burning and low burning situations. It might be too strong, but it's still abuse. It's still abuse. You take a painkiller, which is legal when prescribed, to deal with physical pain after an operation or some type of injury you have. You take that painkiller. And nobody says you're a drug addict. But after a while, if you get rid of the pain and you keep taking it, now it's drugs. Now it's bad. So this low level of abuse, like the pebble in the shoe that never goes away, but seems to get sharper and bigger, is still there. And guess what? You can have your professional life in order. And it's always going to have its share of struggles and challenges, but it never seems to push you over the edge as that manipulating mother that always seemed to, and I'm going to say it this way, I shouldn't say it this way, but always seems to piss you off. When you love this flame that always burns you and you're the moth that comes close to it, and you're a dutiful daughter, and it's frustrating. Can't she see this? Can't she let up a little bit? But that upbringing that she had and that psychological wiring that she has seems almost impossible to rewire. And she's usually very intelligent, but she doesn't want to face her ways when checked or confronted by the daughter who does it in a very subtle, almost apologetic way. But when she sees herself getting cornered, she comes up with something grand, right? Now, that was my introduction. Now I want to get to the notes, which may differ a little bit because some of these situations are different and some of the reasons why are different. It's not a one size, fits all type of situation, but all the sizes are similar. Come on now. You have a basketball team that's in town, and for some reason, the luggage of all the basketball players' sneakers were taken away. So now the basketball team has got to go to the sports store where they sell sports gear, and they don't have enough time to itemize whose foot is what size. Do you think that store is going to bring a size 5 to the basketball players? Ain't no basketball player 6'8" and 6'5" got a size 5 shoe. They'll probably start from 12 or 11. 11 is tiny. So this is why I say it's not a one size fits all, but it's generally grouped and it has similar dynamics. You see what I mean? So if I go off of my intro onto the notes, because I know of situations this way, and I've seen it my whole life. Now I'm going to read what was written. I'm going to bring up certain points, and we'll talk about each point. But in order to make this complete, so nobody comes in the comment section and say, well, you missed out on this type of situation and that type of situation, I want to be thorough. Just because you always come to my restaurant and order baked chicken, it doesn't mean I'm not supposed to slip a menu when you do a takeout so you can see what else we have to offer. So I like to do things in a thorough way. Here we go. In the Black community, the image of a strong, successful woman often will mask the intricate and sometimes damaging dynamics within her family, particularly the relationship between a mother and her daughter. While many discussions center on the overt abuses some daughters suffer, there exists a more subtle yet equally damaging form of manipulation. We're going to shine a light on those master manipulating mothers who, despite being loving and caring on the surface, manage to continually distress their dutiful daughters through low-key, almost undetectable forms of manipulation. It's important to clarify that this discussion does not address cases of daughters who have been neglected physically or sexually abused. This is not that. And we do need to address those. But instead, it focuses on those mothers who are seemingly supportive yet engaged in behaviors that subtly undermine their daughter's emotional well-being. These mothers often do not appear malicious. They may even be the ones who guided their daughters to success, only to later become a source of constant frustration through manipulative tactics. These manipulative tactics from the mothers, and the mothers excelled in raising their daughters, steering them clear of life's overt dangers and guiding them to success in a male-dominated society. Yet, as these daughters grow into strong, accomplished women, the mothers begin to exhibit behaviors that gaslight and emotionally distress them. To outsiders, these actions seem insignificant. But for the dutiful daughters, the accumulation of such behaviors leads to a deep-seated frustration and anger. The accumulation of such behaviors. You ever watch a boxing match and you see there's a fighter who doesn't punch that strong, and he's in there with a strong puncher, but he has such a great defense, he doesn't get hit that much. But he's hitting this strong man in front of him with an accumulation of so many blows. The man's head begins to swell up. And later on in the fight, the strong boxer who has the strong punch that can't land the blow gets tapped by this weak or weaker fighter, and he falls like an avalanche, like a ton of bricks. And people say, wait a second, this punch wasn't that hard. He got knocked out with that punch. Well, if you came into the fight toward the end and sat down and watched, you didn't understand what was going on earlier. That weaker fighter, and I don't mean to say he's weaker or weak, but he didn't have the strength of the fighter in front of him, so he hit him repeatedly with an accumulation of blows that added up. So now it didn't take much for that other fighter who was looked at as the possible winner. He knocked him out. You're right, Reese. Mental abuse wounds are unseen and never heal. They're always there. You can have healing, but are they really healed? I can't answer that. The dutiful daughter, often the most beautiful and successful of her siblings, if she has, is the one who bears the brunt of her mother's manipulative tendencies. These daughters are typically high achievers, driven by a desire to make their mothers proud. They have likely excelled in their careers and personal lives, often crediting their mothers for their success. However, as they grow older, they begin to notice a pattern of behavior from their mothers that is both perplexing and very much painful. A common scenario involves the mother subtly causing distress, such as the case of the broken vase. The mother visits her daughter's home, accidentally breaks a vase, and when confronted, she denies any wrongdoing. The daughter, knowing her mother is responsible, is left frustrated, not because of the broken vase, but because of the mother's refusal to admit fault. This is a classic example of gaslighting, where the mother distorts reality to the point where the daughter begins to question her own perceptions. Now, after a while, the daughter is not going to question her own perceptions, but when this stuff starts, it can really be a weight on that daughter's mind. As the daughter seeks a simple admission, the mother deflects by feigning illness or shifting the conversation to another topic, effectively shutting down any chance of resolution. This tactic has been used repeatedly over the years, leaving the daughter feeling emotionally drained and powerless. The mother, knowing her daughter's deep sense of responsibility and love, exploits these feelings to maintain control, ensuring that the daughter remains in a perpetual state of distress. Welcome on in, Diane. I was in my zone. I'm glad you're here, and everybody else. We have to talk about this. For many Black women, the label of the angry Black woman is a stereotype they fight against every day. However, in the case of the dutiful daughter, this anger is not unfounded. It is a result of years of microaggressions and manipulations. Mind you, she comes from a good home. From the outside world, she has a great mother. But the result of years of microaggressions and manipulations that have accumulated over time, like that weak boxer's punches. These women are not angry because of some inherent flaw in their character. They are angry because they have been subjected to a lifetime of psychological manipulation by their mothers. This anger is often misunderstood by those outside the family dynamic, if they happen to see it. Friends, other family members, and even strangers may see the daughter's frustration as unwarranted, which makes us more frustrated, especially if the mother plays the role of the innocent, doting parent in public. This further isolates the daughter, making her feel as though she has no one to turn to, as others cannot see the insidious nature of the mother's behavior. To truly understand the depth of this issue, it's essential to examine the subtle, everyday scenarios where this manipulation takes place. I got like 10 examples here, and I could probably get 500 if I had enough time. Yes, thank you too, Diane. Thank you so much. Let's go through the first one. And all of these don't fit every situation, but I had to pull away from the surgical precision and broaden the scope a little bit so we can cover all of them. And at any point, if anybody wants to discuss, I'm going to put the link out there after we get through these scenarios, and you can add in whether it's you or whether it's somebody you know. You know, I always invite the participation. And again, these are generalized. If I had 500 scenarios to write down, they would be more focused. Invalidation of achievements. The mother consistently downplays the daughter's successes, offering backhanded compliments or attributing her achievements to luck rather than hard work. That's terrible. That's, if you just outright just say it's luck, that's a little more aggressive than many of the mothers who are manipulative, right? In these low burning situations. Next, feigned forgetfulness. The mother forgets important events or accomplishments in the daughter's life, leaving the daughter feeling unimportant and overlooked. But did she really forget it? No, she didn't. It's feigned. That's to keep you in that pain perpetually and under control. Constant criticism. The mother offers constant low-key criticism of the daughter's life choices, whether it's her career, her choice of a partner, or how she raises her children, all under the guise of motherly advice. So when you're the dutiful daughter, you know, you have the motherly advice and you accept it. But it's also like putting a little poison in the Kool-Aid because there's criticism there. And it gives you the feeling where, not that you internalize it sometimes, I guess you do, but then you're not good enough. And you fight hard in the outside world. And I'm not saying that you might think you're not good enough, because at the crucial time when you were younger, your personality forming, your outlook on life forming, it didn't happen as much. But again, as you get more advanced in whatever it is you're doing, you begin to move out into the world, that affects the mother, and she feels she has to manipulate. Emotional blackmail. The mother uses guilt to manipulate the daughter, often reminding her of sacrifices made for her or playing the victim to gain sympathy. Wow. Well, you know, it was me who sacrificed and worked those 3 jobs, and your father wasn't around. And if he wasn't around, maybe he transitioned or whatever, but still that manipulative mother will use that as emotional blackmail to bring you down and put you in your place, because now she's still taking credit for your accomplishments. Although she is due credit for what she's done for you, when do you finish paying the credit card off emotionally? The next one, public embarrassment. The mother subtly embarrasses the daughter in public settings, making comments that seem harmless to others, but are deeply hurtful to the daughter. And this also goes, a lot of these things go on with the fathers who manipulate their sons. You see what I mean? To bring you back down into your place. And remember, these parents, these mothers, not all, but some, they grew up in a different world, and their psyche was formed. You see, even look at the fact that I heard a woman my age when I was driving the bus, and she was fascinated by the articles that I wrote for a local paper, which were the same articles that were on my site. It was West Orlando News. And what's his name? I know his last name, but first name, God, what's his first name? Keith Longmore. He might be out there listening now. He used to take some of the articles with my permission. I said, hey, whatever you want to take and put out there, you know, if you need to kind of cool it down, because this is a newspaper. There wasn't any profanity there, but I did speak like I speak. And she used to read the articles and didn't know it was me, this passenger on my bus. But she knew me as Lance and everything. And these were local papers that were put in the supermarkets for free, right? And they had different editions, I believe, that cost. And she made the connection with another passenger. She said, he's the one writing these articles. So when I was speaking about racism and the effects on Black people in the psyche, I had a little series that I did. So she came to me. She was always pleasant. She sat in the front and began to ask me about my views on race, on slavery, and the black man. She says, you seem to be a very strong black man. You're different. This is Orlando, Florida, and you come from New York City. And the Orlando, Florida that I know was a lot different years ago. But I was really raised from young in Alabama, in a little hick town in Alabama. And my father taught me that whenever I have to speak to white people anywhere, that I cannot stand closer than 8 feet, and I can't stare at them. I can't even say, excuse me. I have to stand there, put my head down, and only speak when spoken to. And if they said nothing, I couldn't approach them. I was like, what? So as she read more of the things that I wrote over the next few months and weeks, she got a little edge to her because it was bothering her. You know, maybe she felt insulted. I wasn't insulting anybody who grew up in a place like that or a time where that was prevalent. But she began to look at me different now because she felt embarrassed on how she was raised and how I was raised in New York City. Oftentimes seeing the Nation of Islam selling Muhammad Speaks, or the different groups that are all over the country at that time. So my psyche was wired different. And then this woman began to come at me in subtle ways to try to piss me off about my upbringing. So it's the same dynamic. So could you imagine what her father went through to tell her that? Now, this is not the situation most of the time, but sometimes there is a subtle envy that you're not growing up in the same world that they did, and not that they wanted you to, but you need to get a little taste of what I've been through. You see what I mean? And maybe it's a way of seeking acknowledgement. I don't know. Because, like I said, it's not a one-size-fits-all situation. And here's another one. You get the silent treatment. The mother gives the daughter the silent treatment when she doesn't get her way, forcing the daughter to constantly apologize or make amends, even when she's done nothing wrong. Ain't that something? That is manipulation. Boundary violations. The mother disregards the daughter's boundaries, such as showing up unannounced or making decisions about the daughter's life without her consent, or going behind the daughter's back to right a situation that the mother felt was wrong, but the daughter said, listen, let it go. But she went back and raised sand, reopening the situation and oftentimes embarrassing the daughter. Why? Comparative neglect. The mother compares the daughter to others, particularly to siblings or peers, in a way that diminishes the daughter's self-worth. And that happens in situations when the abuse was even severe, which this is not that dark physical abuse and just, you know, the heavy stuff. I don't want to say the R word, but you know what I'm trying to say, the 4-letter word that rhymes with grape. So imagine the physical thing like that and still having to deal with this and other things. And we're going to get on in those topics. We've done this on the prior platform, but so many of those videos are gone. And I want to revisit those particular scenarios because even now more so, I have more of an understanding because of the people that I've spoken to since. I'm not this wise wizard. It's what people feed into me now. I do have a way of looking into a situation as an outsider and figuring stuff out. I've always been good for that, to discern certain things. But when people share with me their situation, I can weave together a tapestry of experiences from which I draw from. And that seems to be my position in this world. I didn't know that that's what it is. I didn't know I'd be doing this at this age. Unsolicited advice. The mother offers unsolicited advice, often in areas where the daughter is already competent, implying that the daughter is incapable of making good decisions of her own. That happened to me recently. My parents transitioned, but I had somebody tell me something that they knew I already knew on a dietary level. I specialize in this. You know what I mean? And you're going to tell me something to make you look good and to try to throw a little side curve at me? It happens. It happens. And Gifty Sine says, they often treat their sons like husbands they never had, and the daughters like personal servants. Yes. Now, if you all know I talked about the mothers who are married to their sons. We're going to revisit that one. I don't know if I found it and uploaded it again, but there's different angles of that. And like we will visit this one again, because I like to go in on a topic with surgical precision. As a specialist, not that I know everything, but let's get into every angle, every perspective possible in this one little area, which is not little because these things mean a lot to the people who've had to endure and go through it. Now, the last one that I jotted down, disregard for personal space. The mother invades the daughter's personal space, such as rearranging her home or personal belongings under the pretense of being helpful while actually asserting control. Wow. Wow. But it makes you wonder, like, why do they behave this way, right? Understanding the root cause of this behavior is crucial for both the dutiful daughter and those around her. Manipulative mothers often have a deep-seated insecurity and fears of abandonment. As their daughters grow more successful and independent, these mothers may feel threatened, leading them to engage in manipulative behaviors as a way to maintain control and keep their daughters close. For the daughter, the desire to please her mother is deeply ingrained, often stemming from childhood when she sought her mother's approval. This desire, coupled with a strong sense of duty, makes it difficult for the daughter to break free from the cycle of manipulation, even as it causes her significant emotional distress. What are the steps toward healing and breaking these cycles? Breaking free from the cycle of manipulation requires strength and self-awareness. Here's a couple steps that will help. Acknowledge the manipulation. Recognize the behaviors for what they are. Manipulative tactics that have been used to control you. Understanding that these actions are not your fault. I'm going to say it again. Understanding that these actions are not your fault is the first step toward healing. Let me read what Tracy J said here. When a woman does, can't choose a husband who can meet her needs physically and spiritually, her children often become casualties. Woo! Y'all got to keep these topics coming because I'm going to make a note of it and we're going to talk about every one of these things. And if you know of anybody who wants to share their experiences, even if it's a topic that I haven't done yet, you can say, Lance, I got somebody, but I want to talk about this. Do a show about this. I'll come up with the words. I'll come up with the title. I'll come up with the notes. I'll come up with the graphics. If it's something that means something to somebody, let's talk about it. If somebody that you know said, and hey, y'all got to help me out. Hey, would you mind coming on my friend's show? You don't have to say your name. Because the more that people talk and share their experiences is the more that you realize you're not alone and it can help others. Not that it's done in a misery likes company, loves company situation, but it's like, wow, I'm not the only one who went through that. Wow. Let's see how they got over it. Or maybe something I can share will help them. Here's the next one. Set boundaries. Establish clear boundaries with your mother. This may involve limiting the time you spend with her for a time, refusing to engage in certain conversations, or even taking a temporary break from the relationship. You see? Oh, wow. Azoka Movie Group says, yep, my lesbian mother got married and her wife gave a ring to me at the wedding. I threw that shit away. I'm not laughing. I didn't expect that one. I hear you. I hear you. And all y'all hang tight. I got a few more of these to say. And if anybody wants to come on in and share, yeah, that was, all the comments tonight were good, but that was a highlight comment. Thank you for even sharing that, Azoka. I'll call you Azoka, whatever your name may be, because it says movie group, right? But I appreciate you being open, because I know that's what I do, right? Seek support. Reach out to friends, family members, or a therapist who can provide an outside perspective and emotional support. That's a no-brainer. In most situations where we're pained or abused on any level, that professional thing, you know, and be careful of the family members that you open up to, please, because they may be under the spell of that abusive mother, right? Or that manipulative mother, and run back and even side with the abuse. Listen, I know of several situations about what I'm about to say, but there's this one that stuck out. Young lady was raped by a cousin from the age of 8 years old to 13 years old. It was an ongoing thing. It wasn't where they were, you know, thrown down and pushed and punched or anything like that. But it was a cousin. I believe the cousin was 19 years old and the little girl was 8. And it started to happen. And it's a highly religious household. The little girl didn't want to say anything because she didn't want to be the troublemaker. You know how that goes when you're manipulated not to tell anything. And when it all came out, when she got the courage to speak to the mother who she felt knew what was going on, but turned her head. And it was an aunt who later on heard about the little girl who grew up to be a grown woman and have kids of her own, to speak to, not to even confront her in an aggression way, but to say, Mommy, this is what happened. And I feel you knew something. Why didn't you do something? Because I feel you knew something. And the mother said, well, it happened to me and nobody helped me out. Wow. Your own daughter, who is a grown woman, who has children of her own, is still hurting from this. You see how families can be. Now, I'm not saying that this is the way it is in this particular program with manipulating mothers with that low burn, slow burn type thing. But I have to say that the aunt, the sister of the mother, caught wind of what happened because the mother ran back and told this woman. And the aunt called the daughter, who's grown now, to chastise her. And I'm saying this because you got to be careful of the family members who you share your pain with, because they may be the dormant cheerleaders that will even drive the knife more into your wounds. See? And she said to her over the phone, how could you bring that up? That's the past. That's the past. I'll never forget how when it was told, the pain that she exhibited when she said that. And like I said in my example earlier, if you get shot in the leg early in the morning and you get to the doctor late that afternoon because you had to get airlifted by the helicopter and the wound is hurting, he says, oh, this was early this morning. That's the past. Ain't that something? So be careful who. Sometimes you may not want to get directly into the scenario of what you've been suffering. You take your time and kind of get to it in a roundabout way. Be very careful. But when you have someone you can talk to, it's worth its weight in gold. The next one is practice self-care. Focus on your own well-being. Engage in activities that bring you joy and help you de-stress. Remember that your health and happiness are just as important as your mother's. Tracy J says, some parents don't want their children to do better than them because it will remind them of their shortcomings and missed opportunities in life. And isn't that sick? It's common, but it's really sick. And I find this I can't say more with the mothers and less with, because I know some hateful behind fathers too. But when a father has a son, usually, unless he's got some extreme issues, he's proud when the son does well. If it's a father who's involved, and there's other factions, so I can't really say I know the proportion of fathers to mothers who, but I see a lot of it with the mothers. A lot of it with many mothers. I don't know the proportion. I don't know the percentage. Because these things, as an outsider, you won't see until you find out later on, right? So we don't really know. Yeah, Chris N. There are also church-going and religious fanatics, or strong in some type of community organization, where oftentimes, while they may be sincere about it to a point, it also doubles as a mask to hide these imperfections, which none of us are really perfect. But they can conveniently hide behind that, and the community will question you if you try to reveal it. And so lots of times these daughters are not going to reveal anything because they know they're going to be publicly chastised, or at least within their inner circle. You see? Communicate clearly. When addressing your mother, be clear and direct about how her actions make you feel. Avoid getting drawn into arguments or emotional blackmail. And that tactic is really good for many different types of pairings, of proximities, of friendships, of kinships. Because to avoid the point, they will try to deflect and get emotional about it, get you emotional about it, or bring up something else that they can hold over your head so you don't go in on them. Ain't that something? You can be friends. You see? Understand your triggers. Identify the situations or comments that trigger your frustration or anger. Knowing these triggers can help you prepare for interactions with your mother and respond in a way that protects your emotional well-being. It's a shame that one would have to prepare for a meeting or a time with their mother, like they're going to battle. I got to have this weapon, I got to have this. But it's true. Because they will try to get you there. And they know your triggers because remember, they were here before you. Tracy J says, Lance, it's because that mom was single and could not keep or get a man. And she doesn't want to look like she failed in life. Isn't that something? And how many women, not to get off the topic, but how many women just grab a man? I always make the joke about that woman who never had a man and grew up in a place where you're looked at as something wrong with you if you don't have a man. Why have any man just to say you have a man and you're in torture and you're not happy? And it's not for everybody to have the same exact situation. Some of us were put here to be masters of a certain area as a profession, to lead the people free in different areas of their existence, which takes a marriage and a commitment to that area. It's not for all of us to be carbon copies and cookie-cutted situations like everybody else. You see what I mean? If she had a good man or husband or something going for herself, her energy would be directed elsewhere. These older ladies need something to do with their lives. Hallelujah. Hallelujah. I say that as a person who just wants to say hallelujah. That's a whole different topic. Women who are unfulfilled as they get older in different ways. And I don't mean just sexually. There's a lot that we have to deal with what's already been done to us. It's an emotional Rubik's Cube. It's like that knot that's in that rope, and you're trying to figure it out and untangle it. And the more you untangle it, it seems like it gets even more tangled. It's like trying to find the edge of a cheap roll of toilet paper. And you get frustrated when you pull it out, pull it up, you find it, and it rips away from the other side. So now you dig in to 3 or 4 levels to rip it all off to get the toilet paper right. Ain't there something? And I don't know if you can hear the animals out there. It's not a bird. I don't know what that is, and I hope it stays on out there too. But they're mating. I don't know if you can hear it in the background, but it's real low, probably to this microphone. But those triggers, be very careful. The next one is release the guilt. Let go of any guilt associated with setting boundaries or standing up for yourself. Remember that it's okay to prioritize your own mental health. And this is what I feel happens because the dutiful daughter oftentimes is more concerned for the mother and will open herself up in a way, in a loving, caring way, only to get hurt again. And it'll be in her head. It'll throw off her days. And people in the outside world that may not know, who may know a little bit, may say to themselves, it wasn't that bad what she said. But see, they don't understand the years of accumulation of this type of abuse. Do you have to put your whole hand in the grill full of the barbecue chunks, the charcoal, and hold your hand in it and know what a flame is like? You know, you touch a hot stove real quick, that thing burns. You know what heat is. You don't want any more of it. So yes, release that guilt. And that's part of the breaking of that toxic cocoon that a mother may have their daughter in. Focus on the positive. While it's important to acknowledge the negative aspects of your relationship, also take time to appreciate the positive moments. This can help balance your perspective and reduce feelings of resentment. Educate yourself. Learn more about manipulation, gaslighting, and emotional abuse. Understanding these concepts can empower you to take control of your relationship. And of course, I have to say this last but without least, consider professional help. If the relationship is causing significant distress, consider seeking help from a therapist who specializes in family dynamics or emotional abuse. Yes, I'm going to soon open up the line. The journey of the dutiful daughter is one of resilience and strength. While the manipulation of a master manipulating mother can be deeply damaging, it is possible to break free from this cycle and reclaim your emotional well-being. By acknowledging the manipulation, setting boundaries, and seeking support, you can begin to heal the wounds caused by years of subtle abuse. Remember, your worth is not defined by your mother's actions, and you have the power to create a life filled with love, happiness, and fulfillment, free from the chains of manipulation. Now, I'm going to drop this link. Oh, thank you for being here, Gifty. And we're going to touch on other sides of this. This was just a brief 1 hour and 11-minute presentation, but it can go on longer. If we have anybody that wants to come in and just say a word, and if not, no problem, because, you know, our voices can be well known and in our inner circles or whatever, and that's okay. Let me drop this link right now. We'll chat a little bit more, and we'll see. If anybody pops in, I'll let you in, right? But imagine you have this dynamic going on. See, with most of us, we have something that's even more domineering of an issue in the relationships with our parents. I'll bring the scope back to parents now, although we're talking about manipulating mothers, but I'm just saying overall. So imagine you got this kind of situation going on as a daughter with your mother. And then you have another situation with one of your siblings. And then you got another situation with one of your cousins or your grandmother. And we have things that we yearn for that are unique unto our own emotional makeup and fabric. This is a hell of a Rubik's Cube to walk into. Now, I love life. I love life. I've been through some rough emotional times, but I still overall have always found a way to come back, always find a way to thank my Creator for another day and another chance to make a difference, to make myself better. Even when I was making dumb behind decisions sometimes, I was brought through. But there are some situations that some will go through their entire lives, sadly, if they don't look at it the proper way and detox themselves from the toxic traits passed down, and to finally be free of all of that stuff. How many people leave this earth and don't break the chains of this type of abuse that the rest of their world didn't even see? And they had to suffer in silence. How many things are these older women who are mothers who manipulate? Why are they manipulating? Why? What's the reason? There's a reason for everything, whether you know it or not. So sometimes you've got to look what it is that they've gone through. And even when it makes sense to us, we figured it out, do they, as mothers, realize it? Or whoever else you're dealing with in life. Now, when it comes to mates and relationships and situations like that, you may meet a man that has a manipulative father. And I say that because I'm speaking to women tonight because of the manipulating mothers and the dutiful daughters. The dutiful daughters. Are you a people pleaser? Do you feel as though you have to save every situation, looking for the connection that you just can't have with your mother? Are you going to be manipulated by a man or even a woman who's a friend of yours, who may be a little older and give that mothering feel? Will that person use you because they see where your weak point is? See, we have to dissect ourselves. We have to be brutally honest with ourselves. We have to be brutally honest with ourselves because sometimes we want to see the presented self that we present to the public. And many of us don't do it. And that's healthy to not have this persona that is your representative. I spend my whole life trying my best to be honest and real. I never really did put up that persona. I know how to act decent and say the right things in a dignified crowd. But when you get me behind closed doors, you want to hear what I really have to say, which is going to be the same, but more intense. My goal is to not transition in a severe state of emotional constipation. My goal also is to not transition in any state of emotional constipation, to keep my emotional intestines clean so that when I open my mouth or share a thought, it doesn't stink because of the constipation and holding in of all of these things that I had nothing to do with, but I internalized. See, with a lot of things concerning mental health, there's a lot of do-it-yourself stuff that we can do, but we don't want to go in on ourselves, so we let somebody else analyze it. Like Reese just said, that causes a person to walk around on eggshells to not upset the apple cart. Profound. Even when those people are not around us, that cause us to work on eggshells, to walk on eggshells. We bring our eggshells to the job. We bring our eggshells to the new relationship. We bring on our eggshells to the in-laws, and they can sense this. And if they're not right, you fit right into the situation. And it never ends. It's just different actors and actresses in the same play. And it continues on and on and on and on. Ain't that something? How about that? Well, anyway, we're going to topple. Yeah, we're going to topple it. I always do a Freudian slip. We're going to tackle this topic. Sweetberry. Oh, man, I wish you came in early because we're about to wrap it down. But unless anybody, comes on in or has a question or wants to say something, I'm always open for the interaction. We have these deep topics. Always feel free to come on in and share. And if you want to share something that maybe you don't want connected to your name in the comments section, I keep my mouth shut. I'm going to put my information below. For the most part, you can WhatsApp me, right? During the show, before the show, after the show. And you can say, hey, Lance, I want you to say this. You don't have to be in my contacts. Even if you were, I'm not going to say, oh, this one said that. I'll go call somebody and whisper, oh, you know where that comment came from? That's my reputation out here. I don't do that. And trust me, there's a lot of information that I have that I'm happy that people have opened up to me because it's taught me a whole lot. And over the years, there have been some severe situations. I remember, and it's out there, so I'm not telling anybody's business. I was on my way to work. I was actually at work parking my car to go take the shuttle bus to go downtown to pick up the bus that I was supposed to drive that night. And I got a phone call. And it was a young white girl who was a victim of incest. We did 3 parts of her life, 3 separate shows, hours long. I could not believe, just when I thought that it was about to end, it went deeper. That 3 and 4 years old, she was passed around by older brothers and neighbors. Father, so this is some old trailer trash type stuff. And she was a wreck at some point because as this stuff came out, she would cry. She was hurting. And I never pushed her to keep talking. I had patience, as I know to do in these situations. And she even made bizarre jokes on the situation, and they were bizarre to me, but she explained that this is how she got through it. You see? So we don't know what a person is going through on the wrap up. When we meet people, we don't see their scars. We don't see their wounds. They don't act like their scars. They don't act like their wounds normally. And now we have Queen Nefertiti coming on in, and I'm so happy to hear she can open up her mic and feel free to come on in. The floor is yours. I'm the only one here, and I'm about to shut up because Queen Nefertiti always drops the bombs. Talk to us, sister.
Greetings, Brother Lance. Greetings.
Greetings.
And everybody else. I was listening. I'm at work. Usually I listen to you at work, but I said I had to call in because I think
Thank you.
you first of all, I want to say thank you for this topic. You're a man and you're doing a topic that affects women. And a lot of men don't do that. And so I think I speak for the women in the live, but also women who listen to this later, that most men, they don't do these kind of topics. I'm speaking of the podcasters, and they don't even know how to do the topic because they can't really relate. And you have articulated it like you're a woman. Now, I'm not going to ask you if you're a trans person.
Well,
You're really a
there's no
woman.
trans curve around here, but
Are you really a
my
woman?
relationships with women and my relationship with my mother has helped me, and she taught me many things on how to deal with women and to see beyond the surface and the work they put into me. I didn't know how many limbs I had symbolically, and that has helped me a lot. And it's my wiring. But I'm gonna shut up. Queen Nefertiti is here. Talk to me, sister.
Well, thank you. I think this is maybe a 10-part topic, and you touched
Mm-hmm.
on half of the part one, the tip of the iceberg, which is
Yes.
you touched on the umbrella And then, like you said, something to the effect of this. I forgot the words you
Surgical
used.
precision.
Mm-hmm. But if you just touch this umbrella, there's so many different spokes on this umbrella.
Yes.
And each woman who is a daughter and even a mother who have experienced these are a different spoke. Some come from different things. Some mothers are narcissists. Some mothers are not narcissists, but they're emotionally unavailable. And I think I want to speak to the emotionally unavailable women because narcissists are emotionally unavailable. All narcissists are emotionally unavailable, but not all emotionally unavailable mothers are narcissists. So I don't think there's a lot of, I'm just coming subjectively from research because I was a teacher. I'm
Yes.
still an advisor and a mentor, but a lot of Black people are not narcissists. Um, a lot of the dominant society are narcissists. Um, but we sometimes think narcissism or mistake narcissism or mistake other things for narcissism, but a lot of
Hmm.
times from our trauma versus a straight narcissist who just thinks the world is about them and they really are cold and don't care about other people. Where I
Right.
tend to see and experience as an older Black woman myself that a lot of the Black mothers, the kind that you're speaking of today, not the kind in the Tyler Perry movies that let their daughters get raped and stuff,
Exactly.
but even them, but they're just more of an extreme. But the mothers is so complex because they've been so traumatized. They're emotionally unavailable because nothing was given to them. How can
Right.
you, have you ever had a full cup or cup with something in it and then you pour it into another cup, something, half of it, or share it? But imagine
Hmm.
the cup is empty or only has a couple of drops and it tries to pour into another cup. There's nothing to pour.
That's right.
And so in the positive sense, because Black people have so much positive pride. We've suffered for 400 years or more in Black America, and yet we still have this kind of dignity and pride within us, especially the
Yeah.
older Black women. They can't say, I feel weak, I feel insecure, I feel no one loves me, I feel a fear of abandonment. They can't express these things. So
Wow.
partially because of the positive pride, although it's a negative result when it comes to this, they don't feel okay. But not only because of pride, but because when they were coming up, if they had dared express it, there was no one to listen, there was no one to hear, there was no
It's
one
true.
to wipe their tears. So now here that woman is unequipped to even deal with her own emotions, now giving birth because through the sex act, she had a child.
Hmm. Hmm.
She may or may not have been married, uh, but especially if they weren't married, or if they're divorced, or if they're a single mother for whatever reason, now their inadequacies, which they can't even admit to themselves, how are they manifested upon that motherhood? And in a sense, you also tapped into something. I remember that show, Mothers Married to Their Sons. And
Yes.
marriage is a deep thing because marriage symbolizes somebody that will never leave you. That's the intention, till
Yes.
death do us part. But because it's a contract, we can break it. We can get divorced. But when you have a son, you can't divorce your son. You can't divorce blood. You're related forever. If you don't see each other for 50 years, you're related forever. So these women who have been wounded and now wound others because of their wound, because they refuse to heal or get healing or recognize their own need for healing. When they have a son, these same mothers who manipulate their daughters like servants, when they have a son, they're like subconsciously now, which is more dangerous than conscious, because if you're conscious, you can help it. But if you're unconscious and you're not aware, you don't know what you don't know, so you can't do anything about it. They subconsciously feel that this is a man that will never leave me no matter what. He can't leave me because he's my son.
Yes.
Of course, they're not looking for romance from their sons, but that's not what most women are looking for anyway. They are on the surface, but not on a deep level. What they're looking for is they're actually looking for God. They're actually looking for God. The reason I say
Yeah.
God is because the scripture says, I will never leave nor forsake you. So in that sense, they're looking for a man that will never leave nor forsake them. And so their son, in a sense, biologically, by blood, can never leave can never leave them because they're connected. It's like, I got you. You're my son.
Yep.
So if the son is a dutiful son, which is a whole nother topic, but a lot of times those marriages end up bad when they're a dutiful son to this kind of mother, because when a son is married to his mother, who needs him because she doesn't have a healthy relationship with herself or God or a man, and now she's made her son her husband, when he actually gets married for the romance part, where the actual reason for marriage, it's like
Yes.
the wife is like, wait a minute, this is weird. I feel like a second wife here. So now that same mother, when she has her daughters, because the feminine is not the same. Feminine need masculine to never leave them, but their daughters are an extension of them. And it's like, I need to stand on your shoulders, kind of ironically. First, they make you great. Like you said, they can make you great. They can pour into you to make you great. But then
Exactly.
they want the credit for that because they never had it. So then they own your greatness. It's totally off topic, but it's kind of like they complain in the music industry these days, like, oh, you sign with a record label, but then they own you. They own all the masters and they own all the money and they control you. So they make you great. They make you popular. They make you a best-selling #1 hit so they can have that. And so in a sense, unconsciously or subconsciously, these wounded Black women who become mothers
Yes.
do pour motivation into their daughters. So their daughters become the Oprah Winfreys, the Moniques. We've heard about their story. They're famous and they've told the stories about their mothers. And these women are big and powerful. Oprah's the most powerful woman in the world. And her relationship with her mother is notoriously known. And so it's so complex. And then you mentioned the root, which there's a root to everything. And so the bigger picture here that you're tapping into, which is why it's a multiple part series, is this is trauma in the Black American community expressing itself through the mother, and then men have their own thing, and then the children have their own thing, and relationships. And so this topic is so important because I just wanted to add that, though, that a lot of times they're emotionally unavailable because nobody ever cared about their emotions. They never had anyone to share their emotions with. So to emotionally survive, if we think about since slavery, when has a Black woman ever had anyone to care about her feelings?
Seriously.
When we were being raped by the slave master, who cared about a Black woman's feelings? Even her own Black man didn't, because he was hanging from a tree or being castrated or being sold somewhere else and separated from his own children. So for him to survive emotionally and mentally, he had to disconnect. So
So true.
we were so pulled apart. So now generationally, we're not that far from slavery. Everyone alive today is not that far from slavery. Even if you're born in 2024, you're not that far from slavery. 5 generations, your great, 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 great grandmother. Not that Harriet Tubman what didn't die that long ago.
Exactly.
And so then these mothers that you're talking about, when they do become wives or in a relationship, then the man also has to kind of deal with that. And that also spills over into the whole black man, white woman thing. All this is all interconnected.
Interconnected, yes.
So it's just a powerful topic, and it's not enough talked about. Most of our topics as Black people is about material success, how to get the bag, you know, how to be financially successful, which we need, of course. But if the root within us, that's why so many of us become successful in music, in movies, in sports, entertainment. Every field we dominate in, and we become individual multimillionaires in whatever we do, but yet and still, we're still immature emotionally as a people.
You're right.
Kamala Harris, the first woman and female that looks Black from the phenotype, the skin,
Right.
she looks like an African-American woman. She looks like that. And so from that perspective, the first woman who's up there, forget the politics right now. What does she do at her coming out? Have Megan Thee Stallion. This is how we celebrate whatever so-called victories, because that emotional immaturity. So it affects our motherhood, when we're running for office, in our relationships, in every aspect, because it's not enough talking about internal wealth, mental wealth, emotional wealth. We are impoverished because of slavery, and the results of what happened all the years up until now. It's never been healed. If a bone is broken and keeps being rebroken and is never reset, never gets a cast, it's not going to heal. So I just want to, I guess I'm happy you end with some encouraging healing, because it is all about healing. Therapy is important, but a lot of us can't afford therapy. And even some who can't afford therapy might not have a therapist who understands the Black situation, because a Black person who has Black trauma can't really go to a white therapist. That's my opinion, because somebody might argue with that, but how? They can't begin to understand the Black experience. It's so complex. It's so complex. How could we be so powerful in performatively powerful? How could we show up as the proudest people, who party the hardest, dance the best, hit the ball better than anybody? Everything we do, we master it from a natural God-given perspective. So we look like we're happy. And then the other group, the dominant group, look at us like they have no pain. All the years of, this is post-slavery, but post-slavery, when they were doing all these medical experiments on Black women. I'm not talking about the Tuskegee experiment on the Black men, which was more of injections. I'm talking about surgical procedures, going up in them with all kind of tools, saying, oh, they don't experience pain like
no painkiller. Right.
Yes, all that Black women have endured, and those Black women have had children. Henrietta Lacks, After this woman died, even in her death, they took her cells and they've made trillions off of her cells. All the whole pharmaceutical industry is profiting off of her cells. Henrietta Lacks. Look her up if you don't know who she is.
Yes.
A Black woman who's been manipulated even after death. Harriet Tubman died in poverty, abject poverty. This is our unfortunate legacy from slavery. And so this trauma still exists, but we as a generation of daughters, and some of us daughters who are daughters of manipulative mothers, have children of our own now. And it's our time to heal that relationship with our children, if we have children, and to heal the inner child in us.
Yes.
And so what I heard you ending with is basically that healing of ourselves, the steps that we can do, whether that's therapy or whether that's self-therapy. There's so many things we can do for self-therapy, which is going on retreats together, talking about it in safe spaces, channels like this. Because if you can't really charge your mother with some crime, some horrific crime, you feel almost guilty to say she manipulates you.
Right.
Because for every manipulative tactic, she did something to empower you as well.
Mm.
So it's complicated, but there is healing, and that comes from awareness. And our generation of ladies today, anybody that's 50 and under, 50 to 12 years old, up to that, can use tactics to heal themselves that women over 50 didn't have access to. Not just from a professional therapy standpoint, but society didn't care. It wasn't a society built on, oh, express yourself, talk about it. Kids were seen and not heard. And if you were a Black woman, you weren't heard by nobody, not even a Black man.
That's right.
So a lot of these mothers who are older now, some are still young, but they might be too old to heal. But those who are the daughters are not too old to heal. And not only just can we heal, but we can also break that cycle to our next generation by understanding our pain and our trauma and our feelings and working through those and healing those emotional bones, broken bones that can mend themselves. As tough as bones are, it's amazing that they can heal and mend. And our emotions can heal and our trauma can heal. And it starts, like I said, with shows like this. So, and as a man, you bring an interesting perspective because you don't have that feminine energy. You have the masculine protective energy that a lot of us Black women don't get. And that's why a lot of Black women like your channel, because they almost feel like it's paternal, like a safe place to be here and talk about things from an alpha masculine male, but who's paternal in the safe sense. So I appreciate that. I want to call in for that. So that's my perspective from a Black woman's perspective on your topic.
Thank you so much. That's how I was put together by my parents, you know, and never to hurt. I was just always a person who wanted to protect in my core. You know, I just always never wanted to see someone taken by surprise by any attack or anyone who was vulnerable, no matter who it was. I always wanted to stand up for them and make sure total strangers, anywhere in public, that's just what I lean to when I know the situation. And I've been that way from as far back as I remember. I've had these feelings from like 5 years old, You know, I can remember 5 years old walking next to my father, who was very well built. You know, he did bodybuilding, he did boxing, he did some types of martial arts and stuff. And he was getting older because he did the act that created me at 46. Okay, so when I was 19, you know, he was 66. You see what I'm saying? So he was older, but he was still that way. And I remember at 5 years old, I'm sorry, maybe like about 6 years old, 5 or 6, you say 5 years old, we were going to the barber shop. And here it is in 1968. I'm a 5-year-old walking like I had muscles. But it wasn't just that I was trying to emulate my example of manhood, which I learned wasn't just the physicality. It was that I had someone that I can emulate. And it was in the spirit of feeling as though I was a junior protector and father and muscle man and strong man, not just because I had muscles in my mind, but my will was going to be strong. And, you know, it all rubbed off on me. And then to go home, like if I went with him to go to work or do a job or just be there, because I wasn't doing anything at 5 or 6 years old. I really didn't start going with him until 8 years old. He might take me when I was much younger to go pick up the check because we would have different job sites. But I just felt this thing. It's like the squirrels playing, the older squirrel playing, running around with the younger squirrel to teach the younger squirrel how to manipulate its body to, in times of non-playtime, when it was danger and your life was at stake, you knew how to navigate. So that imprinting from him speaking to me and also just being around him, it put the rhythm inside of me. And then my mother continued it on with the empathy, and which my father had all of those traits too, but he was a man. And my mother can go further with the other because she was a full woman. And the love and compassion and just to see the other person's side of things and to look deeper and to have discernment. I came with the total package from my parents. And I can't thank them enough. The more and more I live, the more and more I know I have A to Z in my toolbox, mentally, physically, and spiritually. And I've not always been perfect. I've had times when I've been angry or done wrong and want to lash back. And you have these abilities, it could be quite harsh for the opponent. Okay. But, you know, it's like a good police officer who would rather not pull his gun and use every imaginable way to de-escalate a situation and look into the situation and heal it. So that's where I'm coming from. I love my sisters. I do. I really do love them. Even when it may have been on a adult, agreeable, decadent time, I still showed love. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, let's make something out of this, no matter how brief it may be. Let me show you that, you know, it's not all men are the same. And that was never my goal. I would sit and talk and talk and talk. See, what kind of man is this? He's not looking at me any kind of way. And wow, this is different. And I was paid a really good compliment today by a young lady that I interviewed a couple of times many years ago. And she gave me some kind words. And she says, you know why I still talk with you? Because you never violated me in the conversation. You never tried to, you know, and I see how you navigate, and I'm always going to be in your life. We don't talk all the time, and it was never anything romantic. She's much younger than me, but I encourage her all the time. In times when she was feeling down, I just encourage her. Take a little time and plant those seeds of encouragement. And maybe one day when I'm an old man, I'll see all of these great people around me who I fed into, and that's the ultimate. And I won't take credit for that because they were already destined for that. But you help them along a little bit of the way. Like those people on the side of the marathon race holding cups out because they want to give and help. And the guy at the marathon, the runner, the woman, they take the cup and just throw it down, not because they are not appreciative of that, but they can't hold the cup and stop and say, well, thank you very much for this little sip. You know what I mean? They have to keep going. And that's my role. And that's all it is.
Well, I thank you on behalf of Black women, because we need love. And whether we are the manipulative mother who's was wounded, or whether we're the dutiful daughter who's in a dilemma about self-care versus mommy care, and somewhere in between, like, we need that love, we need that healing, we need that safe space. And this is one of the few places that we can get it. And the Black community just needs to talk about this more, because every great society, including ancient Egypt, is a maternalistic society. The West talks about paternalism, a patriarchy. African community is a matriarchy, because matriarchy and patriarchy is not directly related to like who's the president or who's, it's really like the pulse of it. Like, is it a maternal kind of thing or a paternal kind of thing? So even though you live in Africa, even though Africa, it seems like men kind of, are in the public face of things, underneath it, women are the heartbeat of everything in Africa.
You're right about that.
And that's the way it's been in the Black American community. Men are the outward face, but Black women are, the motor, the engine. And this is somewhat controversial what I'm going to say, but this is my experience, and I say it without any 100%. So I'm saying even some Black women might say the difference, who've been, caught up into this whole Western thing about what the feminist movement and all that stuff is. As a Black woman, I ain't never experienced within the Black community a quote patriarchy.
Right.
There are men who are unhealthy. There are men who do bad things to women, but we're talking from a society, communal, racial level. The Black community has never been a patriarch. First of all, to have a patriarch, men need to have power. Black men have never had power or been given power since they landed over here. They've been in chains. They've been held back. Emmett Till is the poster child of what has happened to every single Black man in America, even if it wasn't physical mutilation. It's economic mutilation, mental mutilation.
Yes.
Psychological mutilation. Familial mutilation. Mutilation as if you two married people are suffering, we'll give her something if you get out of the house. So this is all connected. It's not off topic. It's all connected because it's a domino effect. So these mothers, who are the backbone of Black civilization in America, African American community, and in Africa. Like, what has been your experience from a subtle perspective of women in Africa versus women here in America?
As far as their role in family and society, there's a tendency to, as a person coming from the West, to feel as though they're somewhat pushed down in the status that many women in the West have. And it will be looked at as a man's world. It'll be looked at as the man is in charge. But it's so funny when you look deeper to see it's really women who are undergirding everything for the man to stand on that platform of his maleness.
Yes.
To be able to do and execute the things that he does, and is not ever without the counsel of a woman, even if it's not officially acknowledged. I see a lot of the men here who are caught up in their manliness and their position of being men in a society that's dominated because that's the way it's been. But many of them will never acknowledge that it's that woman who, when they come home, that can answer a dilemma or a challenge to them in a situation at work, in life, or running a government. It's always that woman who undergirds everything, but she doesn't get acknowledged. And she toils endlessly most of the time. And those who are acknowledged are met outwardly with great challenges and treated certain ways because there are many men who do not want to honor the women here. I'm just telling it like it is. There are many who do, but it's all about celebrating the manhood. And see, this is why I'm not going to say any particular country because it goes across the land. You know, we have different languages and different customs, and the motherland is so vast. But many Western women oftentimes will have difficulty with a man from the motherland because he's more assertive in a verbal way. The way of expressing himself may come off as bossy. And I've seen that played out.
He's alpha.
Yes. But at the same time, the same traits of taking charge, not to say that the woman doesn't have power, but it's refreshing to a lot of women from the West who want a man to stand up and take charge. And it doesn't mean that the brother from Africa is better. It's just that he is not as beat down. So certain things don't enter his psyche. And so for us in the West, we have the alphas, we have those who are sigmas, we have those who, because you know, the sigma male is a little more cerebral than the alpha who beats his chest. But even between the both of them, we don't have enough because there is no place for us at the table in American culture. So we tend not to want to go and sit down and eat if we have to sit on a chair and hold the plate in our lap. So we know that we're not acknowledged, but behind closed doors, in the front lines of their wars, for the pleasure of their women, see, we're acknowledged then, or for our strength to build their society, but we don't have a place. And people say, well, you can do it now. It's different now. The residue is still there. And the residue is indicative of more, that we're not cleansed. In America, the mentality from those who benefit from that place, they'll never want to wipe it clean because it benefits them. So this is why many of them who are children of the oppressors and still the oppressors, they don't really want to mess around with that African man who doesn't understand that there's limitations here. So they'll treat them a little better when they come here because that African man doesn't know the tricks of the trade like we do, who come from there. So now you take a person like myself who grew up and knows the tricks of the trade, how they do us, and I say it, and I ain't scared. No, we have to get rid of him on these jobs. No, we have to get rid of him on these free-speaking platforms. And there's so many of us that are relegated to silence, not because we're scared to talk, but because now they can censor us in many ways. And so many of us now, we don't work together in unison to try to understand the other parts of the puzzle that are us. See, sometimes there are parts of the puzzle that don't look too pretty or don't look like if you're putting together a puzzle of several lions in the wild. That piece of the puzzle that shows you the eye. Oh, this is the eye of the tiger or the lion right here. See, those parts are celebrated. But what about over in the bush where it's faded and dark and you can't tell exactly where this part goes? We've been relegated to that. And a lot of us are just automatically submissive, even while showing alpha tendencies and attributes in different areas in the bedroom and at the basketball court and at home with our woman when we want to smack her down, which is not right. So we don't have a sense of power in most places. So we go to what the regular slots are. Sports.
That's right.
some type of rap or thuggery. And those of us who are the intellectuals, we never get celebrated. Go to prison and come out, you'll get a big party. Graduate from school or learning a trade, you get a pat on the shoulder, if that much. You don't have, oh, John graduated t-shirts, but you'll have free Malik t-shirts all over the so-called hood. So we have a lot of things that we have to do. And not off topic, but I'll say it again, any organization, any group of Black men and women that spout separation from the other Black people globally is not what you want to be a part of. Global Black unity is where it's at. And we have to unify where we are so we can unify with those on other shores. But we have to hip the people, get them hip to what's going on here, because they can be put into a state of being disillusioned also. That's with right. This thing called the so-called American dream. So once we come on to one level, doesn't mean we have to be monolithic, but at least have a common thread that goes through all of us. And then now we can begin to work against the oppression and rise so high above where the oppressor doesn't want us to go. Because even he can see it.
But we are monolithic. I would have that debate with anybody. We love to say it because it sounds sexy. We're not a monolith. Oh, really? Mm-hmm. Oh, really? This is an analogy I'm gonna use, but when the kidnapped Africans were on the slave ship on the bottom, the way they were held at the bottom is they were all chained and handcuffed together. We are still all chained and handcuffed together by the Black experience globally. That makes us a monolith. So when we say we're not a monolith, we're correct in a sense, because what we're really trying to say is, well, we don't all order the same thing at the restaurant. He likes steak. I'm a vegan. He likes fish. You know, he likes jazz. I like Cardi B. That person don't even like music. You know, we're really making that argument on a superficial level, but on a much deeper level, our conditioning is monolithic. Our conditioning is monolithic. Our enslavement is monolithic. Our present day enslaved situation and circumstance is monolithic. So we should be actually thinking like a monolith, like a certain group thinks like a monolith for the most part. And how well did that work out for them? Very well. Very well. But we who want to say, well, I ain't the same as somebody else. Again, I was saying that just to kind of get the rise out of you. But yes, on a superficial level, of course, all individuals are different. But,
yeah, right. And I meant it on the surface level. But the deep thing that you said there, I
wasn't talking to you. Because I hear that a lot, you know, in our community. Like, we ain't no monolith.
But you needed to address it, though. Right.
Yeah. Our trauma is monolithic. You know, unlike a lot of other groups who didn't experience that. When a group of people are bunched together in any situation, in the same circumstance, they usually get close together. That's just nature. Like, you know, if some group experienced some horrific thing together, you know, like a group of people that were, you know, stranded in the desert together for 5 years and they had to rely on each other. They're going to come out, or military people who are a KKK and a FOI member. Not that they would really be in the military together, but if they hypothetically were, and they had to fight against a common enemy, suddenly they're a monolith in that for their cause to survive and save each other's lives in the little hole that they're in, the little, whatever they call that, military hole. But I actually think we should more start thinking like a monolith, because if we, but for in the right direction, of course, because we're in a monolith wrong direction right now.
We're like the bird.
Mm-hmm.
that are flying in formation. We can do it, but we're so intoxicated with status and positioning and ego. If we'd all fall into place properly, we would all benefit from being that monolith and fly in formation. But go ahead, I just had to say that.
No, that you said it. And so healing, because so it's just really deep what we're experiencing, but we need that self-love. And of course, like what's happening, this is very off topic, so it's not a topic for this show, but what's happening over there in California,
Uh,
in the news about giving illegal immigrants $150,000
50,000. Talk about it.
free money, $150,000. They call it a loan, but you don't have to pay it back unless you sell the house, and it's free, no interest. And in California, they just struck down two bills that would have given Black people who live in California reparations.
Yes.
And Black
I
people
saw that.
struck the bill down. I read that. And meanwhile, over there in California, they have the bill that the Democrats just passed to give illegal immigrants 150,000. How many Black people listening on your stream and even not listening could do with $150,000 free money for a house? And I say free because they say it's a loan, but it's interest free, and you only ever have to pay it back if you sell. So if you keep it,
And they're going to keep it in their bloodline forever. They're not going to sell.
course. And we can't even get reparations, or even forget the reparations. We can't even get it on to be voted on.
Wow. But
And where is the protest for that? Where is the protest?
Right. But Megan Thee Stallion is twerking. Oh man, what a contrast. I look at things on the overall level, and for the sake of exposing it, I want to drop the link of the two people from the Black Caucus out there who were instrumental in striking that down. And those two links are in the comment section here, the chat room. I had to put it. Lori D. Wilson and Isaac Bryan. Yeah, CLBC members. And she's the chair and he's the treasurer.
I read about that. And here's why it's important for those of us who don't live in California. Because what happens in California, there goes the rest of the nation. It's always the first testing ground. The alphabet, everything was in California and New York. And those are the two places, that's your home. That's your hometown, New York. You need to talk to your people. Lance.
Yeah, no, I am, and I do, but many are intoxicated. Many are intoxicated because they've been there, they grew up there, and you gotta remember, it's not a thing of feeling superior, but New Yorkers have this spirit where no matter what happens, we're gonna overcome it, and we're not like everybody else, the old school, who are still there. And also, after going through 9/11, which the whole nation went through that, but since it's physically there, and it beat down a lot of people, there's a certain resilience and stubbornness right now that many of them have, and they're in la la land, and they don't realize that that was a long time ago. 9/11 was 23 years ago, almost a quarter of a century ago. The 70s, the 80s, the 90s, that's gone. This is a different world. We're not Superman or Superwoman as New Yorkers. Look at the things that are being pulled over the eyes of New Yorkers, like, well, and a lot of them don't see it. These new age New Yorkers do not have it. And a lot of the ones who've been there have lost it. I'm saying this as a New Yorker. A lot have lost their steam. That edge that New Yorkers have. Oh, he's from New York. Don't mess with him. Not that
Totally.
they're tougher than anybody, but they'll be more authentic to the surface than most people who are taught to be subservient and be a good little Southern boy. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. And I have a friend from New York who talks about how it's the same as those people in California. I have a lot of friends there, and they both talk about how gentrification wasn't just a housing situation, but it's to disperse Black people so they can't come together.
Mm.
So gentrification is a double-edged sword. It's not just the obvious that, oh, Black neighborhoods are becoming non-Black, but it's actually splitting up Black people who were kind of segregated by economic situation or whatever. So even these poor ghettos, so-called, where they forced us into because of the poverty situation, they say,
Right.
oh, no, we need to split that up too, because
Yeah.
they gonna come together. But we ain't coming together in the right way. We need to be a monolith in the right way. Why aren't we coming together? That's fine. We can march for George Floyd in the middle of COVID, but how about, and we always say, and we should say this, you know, the whole say her name, say his name campaign. And that's to stop police brutality and stop us from being killed by them. But the percentage of us being killed by them is much smaller than our traitorism to ourselves.
Ooh, you can say that again.
Yes. And even on topic with the mothers, with the daughters, I mean, that's a spoke in that same umbrella. That is that. How are Black people in the Black caucus over there in crazy California gonna be the ones to stop the bill from being, two bills from being voted on for reparations? So the governor over there, what's his name? That governor of California don't even have to vote on it and have the heat on him to say, are you going to do it or are you not? The Black slaves, we love our chains. The Black slaves are the ones who said, no, massa, we're not going to bring these bills forward. And they had enough votes. I read how it works. You have to have a certain amount of votes to bring it up to be signed into law by the governor. They had enough votes. And the Black Caucus, how dare it be named Black Caucus? The
I know.
Black Caucus stopped it from being voted on. Because again, California is first, and there goes the nation. So imagine how revolutionary that would be if California had voted on that. And even if their governor had turned it down, at least the pressure would have been on Massa to say, look, he didn't sign it, but we did our part. But
right.
Now it's quiet. 2 Black people did that in the wake of the 2 Tulsa victims over 100 years old who were turned down from getting restitution in court. Rejected.
Right.
Only
Break
2
it down.
people. We're not even talking about reparations for a whole group of people. 2 people. Where were the protests? Where were the protests for our 200-year-old women? This, your topic, these manipulating mothers have nobody. Those were 2 mothers. I don't know if they were manipulative, but those women, where was their protection? One is 104 years old, turned down, rejected. There was no discrepancy of what happened in Tulsa. There was no
at that age.
Nothing at that age. It would be nothing for the government to give them some restitution. How long are they going to even live to be able to use it?
That's what I'm saying.
So it wasn't the money they were not wanting to give them. It was the symbolism.
Mm-hmm.
It says, What did Earth Angel say?
They were also protecting Gavin Newsom because he plans on running for president in 2028.
And when she says they, who is they? Black people. So
Mm-hmm.
let's correct Earth Angel's comment. Black people, black slaves, black slave-minded people are protecting slave holders, massa, because he plans on running for prez. This is us, our own reparations. Meanwhile, that same state is giving $150,000 of free money. Don't let the word loan fool you. When have you ever gotten a loan, even for $1 that was interest free? Let alone 150,000, and you don't have to pay it back if you don't sell your home. Not immigrants, illegal immigrants. Can you imagine how many? $150,000 each? And we can't even get a bill for reparations on the table, and we stop ourselves? Well, Reese and somebody else I just read, it says we need to change our names and throw out our ID. We need to go to wherever, Mexico or Venezuela, and come back in.
Exactly.
Hablo español. That's how we need to come. Hablo español. Mi nombre es, give me my 150,000. Is that what we got to do?
Forget the American dream?
Yes. And, oh, did you see the clip of Kamala? Not Kamala. Nancy Pelosi. The clip
Not yet. No.
Pelosi on Bill Maher. I wish you had that clip. Basically, it was a clip saying about this bill, and Bill Maher was saying, he was asking about it. You know, I heard about this. You know, y'all gonna give 150,000 in your state of California to illegal immigrants. And you know what her answer was?
What was it?
Well, we're trying to make them legal.
Oh, God.
Did you hear that?
My God.
Let me repeat that. He said, you're going to give, I heard you giving 150,000 to illegal immigrants to get houses. Her answer was not to address the topic of that, but to say, oh, we're trying to make them legal. And that wasn't the end of the sentence. She said, so they can achieve the American dream.
I found a different clip.
Oh, okay. Of that?
No, I don't. Yeah, I'm looking for it on Bill Maher's page, but they're speaking about something else on that clip. He chose to highlight that one. There's so many here. It's only one that's 3 minutes and 16 seconds. And basically, she's speaking about something else on the political level. Let me open this up and see. California Congresswoman and Speaker Nancy Pelosi joins bill to discuss living in fear of political violence and her role in Biden's decision to drop out of the 2024 presidential race. It's not that. It's not what you were speaking, but it's probably from the same show, and they highlighted that. So I'm quite sure if I dig enough deeper, but they usually have one after the other, but I only see this one.
I see. I'm looking at one on my phone. I see one, but people can look it up. It's there. I saw it. And he's saying just what he's saying, like, what? And she says, oh, we're trying to make them legal so they can have So more and more, everybody can have access to the American dream.
Oh my God.
Yeah, here it is. I think I see it, but it doesn't matter.
Like the song goes, some people have built this country. What about us?
Yes. Hold on one second. Talk for a
Yeah.
second. Let me.
Yeah. This is really a super slap in the face because they knew when politicians and the so-called powers that be, whether we know who they are or the shadow government, they can print money up for every other cause, just print it up like monopoly money. When it comes to us, no. And they strategically think about what they can do for others and take their time and make it happen. Money in Ukraine, money for illegal aliens. Now, could you imagine? I'm not going to say they all came from prison, but the rumor has it, strong rumor, that many of the prisons and jails were emptied. So imagine you leave where you are locked up, might have been locked up for life, but they just want to get rid of you because you're a financial liability, and you make the trek, and a year later or months later or weeks later after getting here, you hear that you're going to get a house in America that you don't have to pay for unless you sell it. You think they're trying to sell it? That whole bloodline is going to be there.
Of course. I don't know if that link is playable or if it's against YouTube rules to play stuff. I see some channels playing stuff. I don't know.
Let me see.
I don't know if you could play it within a box within a box. I don't know what. Oh, fair use. Okay. I hear a bunch of people talking about fair use. I don't know.
And that sometimes can bite you because they'll say it.
Oh, okay. Well, then people could watch it on their own then, but it's yeah, it's a news clip, but it's
it may the one thing that makes a difference with it, let me see it, is that sometimes they embed the beginning of the news programs with a jingle that's registered. And when it plays, so sometimes when I've played clips, I've listened for their jingle, and before they're finished reporting or as they're starting, the jingle is still going on, and you put it at that part where it starts, and you get a strike. Let me see here. Okay, how long is this? 3:34? Let me see. Let me just scroll through this for a second. Okay, I'm gonna play this.
And I would stop it or start it, after, like I was started, and then after the Nancy Pelosi part, you could stop it. So it doesn't go somewhere else.
Right. There's a little advertisement in the beginning. Okay, let me start it out here. Now it's already started, so there might be audio over it. So I'm just gonna run it back because it seems to be okay. Yeah, I'm gonna start it from the beginning. If it won't be a strike where I can't operate anymore, it'll just be a strike where it's like, okay,
it won't be no strike.
No, it won't be. I can almost guarantee that. Since
it's not a creative kind of show.
Right. They may just strike that part of it, and there are ways now, and I just want to say this while I'm setting this thing up, that before it used to be where they give you the option of cutting out that whole part in YouTube, or there's another option, but they have a new option now that's really great, that if it's music playing or somebody talking or what, if you're talking over a clip or music that shouldn't be played, you can erase the music and keep the talking part. So I'm trying to find this. I have so many. Okay, here it is. Okay, let me share.
It has music, but hopefully.
No. It's good. No, it's good. I got so many other screens open. Give me a second to get this one. Okay. Let me get back into the program here. And
so while you're doing that, just
yeah.
for the people listening, basically what this clip that Lance is about to show is basically what's happening over in California. And if it's happening over there, it can happen where we live, where you live, wherever you are in the world, except where Lance is in Ghana.
Mm-hmm.
You're safe over there. But the audacity to do this and even to celebrate that illegal people who are here undocumented can be, they can promote for them, encourage for them to have the American dream, and all we've had is a nightmare since we were kidnapped and brought here. The audacity. The audacity. Lance, you there?
Yeah, I'm here. I had myself muted by mistake.
Oh, no,
I'm going to mute myself. I'm going to mute myself while this plays because you will hear feedback. So I'm going to mute this now, and I'm going to open up this screen, and then I have to turn the sound up. So give me a second. And I don't know why I got that old background from an old show on there. So I don't want that to be a distraction. So let me just put this one on, change it up a bit, and we'll leave it at that. Now, from this point on, let me go to that page. Can you make it a little
bigger then? I think that'll help.
Yes. Oh, yes. Just give me 1 second.
Your screen.
Okay, here we go. That's it right there. And I'm going to turn the sound up. The sound is down. I'm going to silence myself, so I'm going to be quiet for a second, like maybe 20 seconds until I get this on. So don't think I'm cut off. I'll be right back.
A strategy that Democrats have long been a fan of is giving handouts in exchange for votes. I've always called it buying votes. A few days ago, we talked about Oregon giving $30,000 grants to illegal, undocumented immigrants, where American citizens were not eligible. Well, that concept is starting to gain momentum. California has their sights set on giving $150,000 home loans for undocumented immigrants.
The state is already $60 billion in debt this year, and here we are giving money away. It's great for Californians to have some money to buy a house here because basically the state has overregulated housing, so the prices just keep going up. But, it should be focused just on U.S. citizens or California taxpayers or people that are legally here. To give this to people who are non-immigrants and here illegally, just crossing the border, just gives more incentive for more people to pour across our borders. We can't afford these unsustainable programs.
The California lawmakers just passed a law. It hasn't been signed by Governor Newsom, but giving government assistance to undocumented immigrants to buy houses. Mm-hmm. That's kind of a different place than the Democratic Party used to be on immigration. Now, I'm not going to say that's what the country's going to do, but that's certainly where California is.
Well, let me just say, immigration had always been a bipartisan issue. I refer you to...
But not free housing.
Well, it's not free housing. It's the American dream being available to more people. But understand this about immigration. The best speech on immigration was by President Ronald Reagan. This is the last speech I will make as President of the United States. I want to communicate a message to the country I love. And he talked about the Statue of Liberty and the beacon of hope it is to the world, and what America was preeminent in the world because our door was always open, and we will cease to be preeminent when we shut the door. Now, I don't do justice to the great communicator. Google it. It's a fabulous speech. And George Herbert Walker Bush continued in that respect for the diversity of America and the rest. California's always in the lead. Maybe others will follow that lead, but that's up to those states. But we are very blessed here with beautiful diversity.
Do you vote for this law?
Excuse me?
So you'd vote for this law?
Well, I'm not familiar with exactly what it is, but making the American dream of home ownership available to all people is something we have to do for people who are here now.
Maybe this is before your resolution. This is undocumented. This is for the undocumented.
Well, what I would like to do is move them to documented. Because that's move them to documented. One of the best things that we can do for our economy is to pass comprehensive immigration reform.
So Nancy Pelosi believes that every undocumented immigrant here needs to be documented. That's the answer to fixing undocumented immigrants in our country. Not vetting them at the border like we're supposed to by law, but by letting them in and just giving them the documents they need to become an American and have the American dream handed to them. Drop your...
Okay, I ended it right here. Okay, hold on. Okay, let me deal with this now. Kind of doing a mix over here. Yeah, thank you for that clip, Queen Nefertiti. Thank you so much.
Can you, I mean, my mouth
Yeah, go ahead.
My mouth is open.
I almost choked.
But see, I see a little you eating and you kind of like got a little smile on your face because you over there in Ghana. You see, I hear you like I escaped you, mofos. I'm out. Y'all got to deal with that. You and Sister SCURV over there in heaven, in Africa, Garden of Eden, eating the apple off the Garden of Eden tree.
As long as it didn't come from Bill Gates, I'm good.
Man,
they got their own worries over here with the GMO stuff.
Oh,
and the fertilization or infertilization shots they want to give people, all those things.
Oh, but see it.
But nothing beats it over there.
The horse's mouth. The answer to undocumented is to make them documented. Wow.
Oh my God.
To give them the American dream. When has Kamala or anybody said that about Black people?
Right. Tell it.
And we're over here shooting down our own bills so they don't get voted on. And we're over here turning down a 104-year-old survivor of Tulsa that she can't get a dime for the crime that happened to her, the economic crimes. We are the
Just telling you right there.
Yes, we are the only
how we stand.
Yes, who every crime has happened to us, financially, emotionally, sexually, medically, psychologically, mentally, culturally, socially, continentally. Every crime that could be committed upon a person or a group has and is continuing to happen to us. And we have now become Stockholm Syndrome victims.
Yep.
You won't leave your oppressor. You won't get out of your chains. We love it. Yeah. So although that's seemingly off topic from the mothers,
No, it's good.
So connected.
Because here, once we cover the topic, whatever is the issue of the day, we're already on. We can flow right into it.
Can you see that lady's face off the screen?
Oh yeah. I left it for effect and contrast.
I don't want to break my phone. I don't want to smash the screen of my phone.
Oh, you don't want it. You don't want that image stuck on your phone.
I was trying to swipe, and it won't swipe away.
No, but you probably tried to swipe and got some mucus on your finger from her face and makeup.
Oh Lord.
Old swinger. She another old swinger.
But it's need prayer, and more than prayer, but we need prayer. We need action. We need channels like yours. So thank you for this show today, and
thank you for your time and your insight and your perspective. When you speak, it's not just the person speaking, but you're giving such a deep perspective and history lessons and tying it all in as one. It's not just a one-dimensional comment. This made the show more than what it was. And we need to speak on these things. And you rounded out what I didn't cover, which made it a better presentation. So I can't thank you enough as always. Because you're in the moment, you're passionate, you're not just rattling off sayings and the same things many people will say. And to add to that, to have a chat room family here to vibe and add on to it, it's just an awesome experience for me. Because many times in America, I attracted people who thought different. Not that you have to think the same way, but they would always come at me with arguments. And it just feels so good to be home. Here in the chat room on the show with you and everybody who's here. And I got to acknowledge you, Earth Angel. I saw you when you came in. And even though I'm here in Ghana, in my spirit, I'm with you all, which transcends our physical location. So I still feel the frustration and the hurt and the pain. But yeah, you're right. I'm glad I'm over here. I'm not going to lie.
Now, how big is your house? How many of us in the chat, and can you fit
Well,
everybody on the chat?
if you all came right now, you'd all have a place to sleep in privacy, put it that way. And with the extra hands, we can do more with the fruits and stuff and the plants that we're planting, and we can live. So feel free. Come on down.
Well,
don't hesitate.
Yeah, we all ain't able to come down. We can live vicariously through you, but thanks. The topic today was super dear. That's why I wanted to call in, just give some from the woman's perspective, as a daughter, as a mother, as so many things to our community, and that's it. Yes. So nobody else is coming in, so I'm gonna go back to work. And
wow. I appreciate it, because I know you're probably quite busy, and that means a lot to me.
I gotta go pay the bills, because I don't got the $150,000 free. For real. Well, if I ever come back to visit, I'm coming through as a person who's from Venezuela. We're going to get that bad boy. $150,000. Who would have ever thought? Years ago, people who make movies would have never thought to have something so bizarre in the plot. I want to see how this turns out. Not immigrants, illegal. Illegal. And the answer was, even when Bill Maher was like, undocumented, like basically the politically correct term for illegals. Like, well, the goal is to make them legal, to make them documented. Well, they need to go all live near her and around her. Yes. How about that? Yeah, I think she's in San Francisco. But I know she lives somewhere that's completely isolated from everybody else. Yeah, California is nuts. Yeah. Yep. Don't none of my California friends invite me to California. I'm not coming. Okay, Lance. Thank you. And I think, yeah, if the people in the your show should be able to see that link themselves. I don't know if it was in there. Oh, I'll drop it. Yeah, it was in the private. Yeah, let me take it. Hold on.
And I'll drop it right in the chat so they can see it on their own and in its entirety. It's just missed like 10 seconds. There it is. There it is.
Yeah, because it's shocking. And once they do it in California, it's going to come to all our states. Any of us in the United States is coming to our states, and they're trying to put us out. And I've been watching the news of what's happening in Chicago and I think Colorado, where all these illegals that they let in, who are all men and military age men, you don't see no women and children in the group. They are terrorizing and taking over apartment buildings and all that stuff. There's some laws that's called sanctuary. I didn't know about this either. Sanctuary places, they cannot arrest the illegals. They can't arrest them for murder, for rape, for nothing, because they're in a sanctuary state or sanctuary city.
Unbelievable.
Yeah, so we all need
I'm glad I'm out of there. I ain't gonna lie. I'm glad.
You said I ain't gonna lie.
I ain't gonna lie. I'm not gonna front.
You and Sister SCURV got out at the right time. Yeah. So.
Unbelievable.
Yes. All right. All right. Well,
You're much appreciated. Don't hesitate to come back on again. I love your input. It gives us something to think about, and you enlighten us. And like I said, we can't get enough of you. And I'm just glad everybody is here to enjoy this, and we can vibe again. And your presence and everybody's presence here validates me in the efforts that I try to put in. And it's just rewarding to see the results, because I couldn't do it without you and everybody who's here. How would I look sitting up here, nobody watching the show? It's not about me, but I love to stir it up and see everything come up and get mixed in, and we can taste the collective and speak real. That's what it's really all about. Because you know, these so-called politically correct situations, they're not going to let you speak real. And that's all I want to do.
Yeah.
You know? And I want to say to Sister Gifty, thank you for saying that. Yeah, hit the like button. It's free. You know? And Diane said, who's writing these sick laws? I know. And who's voting on them? This is just amazing.
Yes.
I don't know. Wow.
Yes. Okay. Well, next time, if other ladies want to come in, if we continue this or the umbrella topics off of it, because we got to get our healing and get our channel back up. And
yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Big time.
Thank you, Lance. Okay. Thank you, everybody in the chat. In there too.
Much love. Much appreciated. And I can't wait till next time. And everybody who's out there, if you have a topic that you want us to speak about, just shoot me an email, or on WhatsApp, you can reach me, or even directly. But WhatsApp is preferred. You can add me in, no problem. Send your feedback. But I pinned the LANCESCURV blog up on top of the chat room. And many people have been complaining that there have been comments removed off of YouTube. I can't control that. But if you leave a comment and say whatever you want, as long as you want, on that particular LANCESCURV blog post of this topic today, just scroll down all the way to the bottom, and you can read the words and notes that I put out earlier on the show if you want to go over it. But leave a comment on the bottom, and you can even have a conversation. And so that's what it's there for. We put a lot of hard work to getting this up, and there are more things coming, and I can't wait. We can only get better, but I can't do it without you. Thank you so much, and we will vibe again tomorrow with a new topic that's going to be just as compelling, or almost as compelling, but very helpful. All right? You all have a good night, and I will talk to you tomorrow. Peace.
Bye.